Does not knowing the how have you procrastinate and stop you from taking action?
Mhm. Or are you busy implementing the how and constantly in a state of overwhelm? Today's topic, 3 reasons why the how is none of your business.
Welcome to the Influencers Journey Show. My name is Suzanne Hart.
And I'm Taria Hodge.
The big question is this: how does the average entrepreneur like us, who started with limited time, zero marketing budget, and limited to no presence online, get their authentic message in the marketplace and actually become a person of influence?
And what skills must you learn? And most importantly, who are you required to become to magnetically attract your divine client and build a loyal following? Welcome, Suzanne. I'm so glad to be back on the Influencers Journey Show. I took a little break, lots going on my end.
I know.
So glad to sit down and have another amazing conversation with you. I'm super excited for this one.
Me too. I love the book Who, Not How.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to dig into this conversation. And it's really going to be an exciting conversation because I know this has been a real growth edge for you. And
Yeah.
we have been in this conversation for a bit. And at times it's been like this.
Yeah.
What? And I first got this when I was reading The Power of Focus by Mark Victor Hansen, Les Hewitt, and Jack Canfield.
Mhm.
I remember the question that totally just opened things up for me.
Right.
And they started this chapter, and they asked us, to the reader, to put a dollar value to what you thought you were worth. And they said, really, like, put a dollar value. So that to me meant exaggerate at that point in time.
Mhm.
So it wasn't what I was making at my job at that point, because my goal was to be leaving. It was what I desired to make. So my number I chose at that point was $250 an hour, magic number.
Mhm.
And so I wrote down $250, and I kept reading. And then they asked us how many jobs were we doing that was $20 and $30,
Yeah.
$40. And I looked at it and I said, whoa, I had a load of jobs I
Yeah.
was doing that were worth $30, $40, $20, $10 at that point in time. And the question they asked is, why would a $250 an hour person do a $30 job? Is that the best use of your time?
Yeah.
And it hit me like, oh my gosh. And at that time, Tria, I was complaining, I don't have enough time. I'm so tired, da 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 da. And what I got was, I took a lot of pride in doing everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it taught me to, one, delegate, and two, just get out of my own way. And so I started giving away stuff.
Yeah.
And I hired a cleaning lady, to everybody's chagrin, because we weren't making cleaning lady type of money. um, when at work, I started really up level and training my team and giving them tasks. And what happened was, they felt so appreciated and so valued. And because they had a new level of responsibility, a new level of accountability, and a new level of growth. And I got all this free time back. I gave my kids chores. I gave everybody, I asked family for help. And suddenly I had all this time.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
allowed me to actually start my part-time, at that time, business. And so when I read this book, and so we've been in this conversation, delegate, Sharia, delegate, Sharia, delegate, Sharia. And you're just like, I don't know why this woman just want me to do everything. And so I'm excited to dig into this because of that real piece right there.
Yeah, so let me just say, one of the things that I got was my big takeaway is the role of the leader. So it's not that you're saying delegate, delegate, and I don't understand the meaning of delegation or what the purpose of delegation. I fully get it, but I think in reading this book, I understood fully what my blocker was. And so the
Mhm.
block or the thing that I kept telling myself is before I delegate it, I have to understand what it is. So I'm the type of person, I gotta roll up my sleeves, I gotta put my fingers in it, I gotta touch it, feel it, and then lay out a process. And after my process is laid out, then I go ahead and I pass it on to others and all of that stuff. And that's the story I told myself. And
Mhm.
reading the book, I got the biggest aha. And one of the things he said, the role of a leader, your role is to simply craft the vision, have the vision, paint the picture for your people, and then you go out and you find the who. And I love the title that we call the show, this episode today, that the how is none of your business, right? So you find the best house, or the best who, and let them go ahead and do their thing. And as a leader, your job is simply to guide the process. So what I found out is, that C word. I sit in a lot of places of control where I want to be in control. So, we've been working on my control issues, and it's so interesting how, they show up in
Mm.
everywhere. And so I realized that's part of me wanting to be in control and have control. And so as in this season in my business, I'm looking at things differently. I'm letting go and letting my team, do their thing. And I'm going to tell you, it's a refreshing process. So is,
Mm.
let them run with it, let them fully operate in their creativity, in their brilliance, and I just guide the process. Be available if there are questions, answer the questions. It doesn't mean that if they have a question or if something isn't right, I gotta go now take it back, because I used to do that as well. I'll go take it back and do it myself. All of that stuff is control.
I think what's really cool, some of the learns for me is that people aren't going to do the how the way I do it.
Mhm,
That was the first one, and ooh, was that confronting.
mhm.
And I'll share an example later because it's kind of silly. And I think the other thing, and I got from reading this book, is when you take the time to figure out the how, then you have to teach the how
Right.
before you delegate it. And in teaching it, you're also very attached to your own way versus finding someone who has much more mastery in an area than you and just allowing them to run with it. I think the key for this is communication.
Yeah.
I think it requires that you become a better communicator and a clear communicator of what you want, what you're looking for, but also being able to ask better questions. And I
Mhm.
think that for me has been my growth edge as I delegate, is not actually being the best at asking questions and not taking the time to ask myself, what do I need to know to
Right.
feel informed as I have someone take on this how. And it's a different type of question in terms of, it's not a how to question. It's more like, is this going to be addressed? Is that going to be covered? This is important for me. Like those kind of details.
Right.
And so I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So as you jump on, first of all, welcome, 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 Super Achievers. We are so excited that you are joining us today. As you jump on, please let us know who you are and where on the planet you are joining us from. Also, let us know what you do while you're living and is your client. As Tria says, who are you called to serve? If you're listening to the replay, hashtag replay and do the same thing. Who are you? Where are you joining us from? What do you do? Who's your client that you serve? And give us those details. Why? Because it lets us know a little bit about who our super achievers are, what they're doing, and it lets you guys know a little bit more about each other so you can network. Also, light up the comment section, ask questions, give us the oohs, the ahs, all that stuff, so we can totally be in engagement with you.
Yes, all right. And then one of the things that we absolutely love to ask everyone to do before we get this party bus rolling, go ahead and take a moment and invite another super achiever to join in on the conversation. So if you are catching us on YouTube, go ahead, tag, invite, share the Influencers Journey Show with your business bestie and let them know, you know, what you are up to in the world and you are inviting them to be a part of the journey.
All right. So you guys ready? Are you
Yeah,
ready, Trina?
I am.
I'm
I'm
ready.
I'm chomping at the bit here.
So if you're just joining us, welcome back to the Influencers Journey Show. My name is Suzanne Hart, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Taria Hodge. Our topic today is 3 reasons why the how is none of your business.
Mm.
So where are we going to start, girl?
Well, you know, one of the biggest premise of the book is how to get time freedom back. Because let me just say this. So let me just tee up the whole conversation. So one of the biggest things that entrepreneurs step onto the journey for is time freedom. So like that's the thing. Everyone says, I want to go ahead and have my own business because I'm tired of putting in all of these hours for somebody else working a job and I don't have any of my time back. Well, truth be told, when you step in on this journey, you are going to work more hours than you ever did on a 9 to 5. And then if you don't do it correctly, get paid way less money. That's my story. Okay. And so it really becomes this thing of time freedom. How do you create time freedom? How is time freedom really created? And like I said, the concept, you know, for me isn't a new concept. Taking a look at delegation and looking at who and building a team and all of this stuff. But I love what the authors of this book, Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, Dr. Dan Sullivan, Benjamin Hardy, I don't know if I messed that up, but what they have done in this book so masterfully is take a look at that whole conversation and gave it more depth. And what do I mean by that? It's not taking a look at the things that you don't like to do, because that's what I've also been told on the journey. So you take a look at all the things that you have to do in your business and the things that you don't like to do, you get them off, you know, your plate. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, there's a feeling, is like a negative feeling that you have that for me created, I'm going to say, a lack of respect, you know, for the task.
That's interesting because
Yeah,
that didn't show up for me at all.
yeah. So it's how do you want to put it? Like, you know, something needs to be done, you don't like it, and this is coming from this perspective, you don't like it, so what you want to do is you want to get it off your plate, so you don't fully have that appreciation for that thing, because it's not the thing that you like to do, it's not the thing that you enjoy to do, or it's painstaking for you. And so what your focus is getting it off the plate, versus taking a look at, this is still an integral part of my business. And instead of focusing on the thing that I don't like, focusing on finding a who is absolutely in love with that process. So even though I may not like it, there's somebody else out there who loves it. They're lit up about it. They have passion around it, and they're happy to go ahead and take it on and do it. And so I think that that's one of the biggest things for me that's
Mm.
out in this process, is in taking a look at the who versus the what you're trying to get rid of. Focus on the who, you know what it is, but focus on the who and finding those people who are lit up about that thing. Then when you release it to them, it's less and less of you still having to manage a person or manage, you know, somebody in that process. This person is like, no, I got it. Let
Mhm.
me run with this. And that's where your true time freedom comes in.
Wow. I'm listening. I'm sitting here listening, going, wow, that's interesting because for me, the not liking the thing is I already know that there's someone who already loves it. I just don't like it. And this is where I really want to talk about the energy of not liking something
Mhm,
or not being good at something or not enjoying something. One is he talks about procrastination.
mhm,
And he says that when you don't like something, how many of you, when you don't like something, when you don't enjoy it, you procrastinate?
mhm,
So for
mhm,
me, the sign of not liking something or not knowing how to do something is my first flag that I need to give it away. I also know for myself that the things I don't like the things I don't like, you get lit up about. I'm like, I have no time for that. And so when I delegate it, I happily delegate it because I know that what doesn't bring me joy brings someone else joy. What where I don't feel powerful, someone else is going to have power. And I'm using the language intentionally because the piece that makes ease and excitement in our business is when we live in the spaces and places that bring us joy.
mhm.
Because I know that when I'm doing certain things, training, speaking, I lose time. It is like I could train you to death if I had a choice, because that's where I get power, that's where I get energy. You give me something else to do, i.e., social media, and I lose power. So I think there's something hidden inside understanding what occurs for you when
Mhm.
you do the things that don't bring you joy and how it makes business and work hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's one of the things, like I said, on this journey, I'm learning to unlearn a lot of things. And
Mhm.
this is the confronting piece because you think so much is you like you talk about power. So you think that your power truly comes from knowing everything and doing everything. And a lot of times we base our worth in our business
Absolutely.
on the amount of things that we're able to do, the amount of things that we know. And then unfortunately, what we do is we try to execute and implement it all on ourselves. And so it was like, it was one of those things that I wrestled with on this journey. It's just like, oh, it doesn't make me, less smarter than everybody else. I think
Yeah.
that's the proving thing. Is just like, oh, I gotta know this and I gotta do this and I gotta figure this out. No, like what's the thing that you are absolutely great at, you're excellent at, you're brilliant at? What are the things that you love to do? Like I love the word that you use, that gives you power, because yes, there are things in my business that absolutely drain me. Like the minute I think about it, I need to take a nap. That's how I feel sometimes. So
Hmm.
it's understanding what comes up for you. And then, like I said, what it did for me was give me a newfound respect and appreciation for those people who love it. And so now, and I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit later on, relationships, how that shifts the energy in your relationships with those people.
Absolutely. And I think I really want to highlight because it's time freedom,
Mhm,
right? And I think it's really one is not knowing how and not having to know how is one of the most liberating things you can embrace in your business, whether it's even in your expertise. Like to say to a client, I don't know how, I'm not clear on how to do that. I can go find out, I can find somebody, but
mhm.
I don't know how. Because how often do we hide out and
Right.
fake it because we think we have to know everything? We don't. I don't. I certainly don't know everything. And so that's the first thing. I think the other thing is we're talking about time freedom. And time freedom, the only way we create it, because we all have 24 hours in the day. I think the one thing to be really clear when you're thinking about this thing called time freedom is it is a limited resource that you cannot get back.
Mhm.
Can't make more of it. There's 24 hours in a day. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. And I think one is to really begin to sit in that place as you hear this conversation. And so time freedom is when you leverage, it's one of my favorite words,
Mm.
leverage the time, the expertise, the brilliance and capacity of other people when you leverage it. And to leverage it is to find the who knows the how. And so I was sharing this with someone the other day, and just to really drive it home, I said, when you work for yourself and you think you have to do anything, your capacity is 5 hours,
Mhm.
right? Let's say 5, 10 hours, 10 hours max. If you work a big day, it's 10 hours, right? When you engage other people to do work, you're now leveraging their time. So imagine, rather than your business being able to produce 10 hours of work in a day, when I engage all these hows, we're now producing 50 hours of work in a day because I've added 5 people. That is leverage. But when you think about output, when I work for myself, my output might be 2 tasks a day,
Mhm.
items a day, 2 outcomes a day. When I leverage the time, expertise, and capacity of other people, my output might be moved to 10 outcomes a day. Think of that in terms of what your business generates. Now, this is the thing that's really cool is, and I'll use the simple thing of hiring a housekeeper, because that was my aha moment for me in terms of time freedom. So I was exhausted. I was running like a crazy woman, and I did 2 things. I engaged my in-laws, children's grandparents, and I engaged a housekeeper.
Mhm.
Housekeeper came once every 2 weeks and cleaned the house from top to bottom. Prior to that, we cleaned the house. I cleaned the house. Me and my people cleaned the house, and it used to take up almost all of Saturday.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's like 8 to 10 hours.
Mhm. Mhm.
And by Sunday, I was so tired. So all I wanted to do was lay down on Sunday and get ready for Monday. So when I engaged the housekeeper, I got those 8 to 10 hours back.
Right.
When I engaged my in-laws, it was for something simple. Can you drive the kids to and from their practice? Can you help drive the children to practice? Those 2 tasks, Taria, gave me so much time. I was now finding 10, 15 hours a week that I didn't have before because I found a who to do a simple how. And my house was cleaner than it was when we were doing it,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And grandparents going and driving the boys to and from, they were elated. Time with their grandchildren, watching their grandchildren do something. Sometimes they fed them before they brought them home. It was awesome. That's what we talk about. Imagine, what do you do with that time? Well, I use the time to build my part-time business at that time, but I also use the time for family night, for quality time on Sundays, for spending time chatting, doing all these things that I didn't have the time or the energy before. So when we're talking about time freedom, we're talking about being able to decide what you want to do with your time.
Mhm. And
Which,
I'm sitting over here smiling because I know that there's some Caribbean mother, who's listening to this broadcast going, foolishness. What do you mean you don't clean your own house?
I tell you, I don't have to go far. There's some family members in my house who told me she's so bougie. She's so bougie. She got a cleaning person. She got a gardener. Soon she gonna have a driver. Heck yeah. Why? Because I understand the value of my
Right.
time. And I also know that my worth is not determined by whether I clean my house or not.
Mhm.
Because someone else cleans my house, I get to hang out with some amazing people and build the best relationships.
Mhm.
Which serves me more?
Right.
That's really the question,
Right.
right?
So now this point that we're talking about is a great layup for this question, because here we are, we're talking about time freedom. And most of, our super achievers out there who are listening, they're like, yeah, of course I get it. Because once I get these things, AKA, whether it's delegating tasks in my business or delegating tasks in my home, of course, naturally, I have more time. to do stuff. So then the next question comes in, well, where in the world do we find the money, to do all of this? Because a lot of times what people see, and I've been a victim of this too, where, what I saw was the outflow of the resources. So all of these things take money. So, but where's the money gonna come from to pay for all of this, especially if you are like at that beginning stage, growing. And so the next part that I love about the book is that they talked about how finding the right who's could help you increase your wealth.
Absolutely. And I'll go back to the housekeeper because many people might be saying the housekeeper has nothing to do with my business, and they didn't. However, there was two things that happened the minute I hired a housekeeper. One was I hired a housekeeper and I didn't have the income extra really to pay her. So I thought. But this was the thing. Because I hired her, I was investing in her. That means I'm making the economy go around, just so everybody knows.
Mhm,
And I was investing in myself because as soon as I hired her, I invested in getting time back,
mhm,
right? And my house was clean. What I did with that time was really where the leverage happened. So, understanding that I'm worth more, I put my time to work for me wisely. And within no time, I was making an additional $500 a month,
mhm,
and the cost of my housekeeper was totally covered. And then I had extra money. Now, what was really interesting was because I had invested in me, I freed up the energy, the space, and the time to generate new wealth, to
mhm,
generate more money in an area that I was passionate about. Remember, we talked about power, and in an area I was excited about. And so what I realized was that the less time I spent doing the things that, one, didn't inspire me, two, actually should and could be done by other people, the more time I had to do the activities that was going to expand my net worth,
mhm,
expand my earning capacity, and actually make my earning capacity occur with joy.
mhm.
And so, and so I see a who not as a payment of somebody else, but an investment in someone else,
Mhm,
an investment in their ability and their gifting. And as I invest in their ability and their gifting, I create the space for me to invest and maximize my ability and my gifting. And that's where the magic happens.
Right. Yeah, and like real world scenario, that's what it is. So as I too start to implement this, what I found is like, oh, we talk about time freedom and what happens with time freedom. I think the first thing that a lot of people really think about is sitting on the beach, umbrellas, because that's a picture that, we all have in our mind, like the end goal, the desire. But what it immediately did for me is, like you said, gave me the time to go back and be creative, like stay in the flow, stay in the energy of the stuff that I have to do, the me onlys in my business.
Mhm.
And so it really got me clear to knowing who the me own, like my me only task, the things that can only be done by me, and what else, can be delegated or dispersed. And then I have more time to go and look at those things, work on programs,
Absolutely.
right, develop this, have more for client forward conversations, enrolling conversations, things like that. And so it has become like a tell for me when I'm getting bogged down, or
Yeah.
I'm getting, I'm moving away from the money, the revenue generating activities. One of my mentors, Shay Brown, taught me that, right? Revenue generating activities. So when you take a look at all the stuff that you do in your business, what are your revenue generating
Yeah.
activities? And if it's not a revenue generating activity, then you don't need to be doing it. Somebody else, could do it. And that's one of the ways this concept has helped me focus on wealth.
And I want to go back to the sitting on the beach with your drink with the umbrella in it, going ooh ah, this is wonderful, right? And I really want to highlight the expansion of what you're saying, Taria, because when you start finding the right who's and you give the right who's autonomy, not only are you increasing your chances of money freedom, but you're also increasing your chances of time freedom.
Mhm.
And when you have a system that everybody has bought into and they bring their own gifts and expertise to that system, you now have the opportunity to have time away.
Right.
And another really big example is I remember when I was in network marketing and I had a team, and I had a team that I had trained. I had developed leaders. There was things that many of them did way better than me.
Mhm.
There was things that they were all gifted at. And I remember once I got them trained, income was flowing and it was flowing without me. My aha moment, my like, whoa, this is cool, was sitting on a beach in Aruba with a friend and opening my phone and realizing I'd made more money while I was away than
Mhm.
I did while I was home, because the who's kept things moving in my absence, right? And we don't start there.
Mhm.
You do the things that Tria is talking about. You go, how do I
Right.
maximize my me only? How do I keep myself in flow? How do I create systems to have all the who's feel on the same page and living passionately in their place of purpose? And then standing back and going, ooh, it's running without me.
Right.
Oh, that is cool. Maybe I can step away. Maybe I can step away for a week. Maybe I can step away for 2 weeks. And now you're in this thing
Right.
called time freedom and money freedom, because money is flowing and being generated, and your system is at play. Your who's are at play. It is not you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Power.
Yeah, and I really just wanted to highlight like that, because I think people like start at the end and not realizing that it is something that you have to build into. And it doesn't have to take forever to do it, but you build into it.
And I think the other thing is a level of mastery over self, right?
Mhm.
So when you are collaborating with who's, you are as important to them as they are to you. You are an integral piece of a puzzle. And I always look at it that way, right? And so I have one slide that I use, and it's a puzzle piece, and there's this red piece. It's the last piece to go in, and and it goes in. And that's often the role I play. I'm the last piece of the puzzle. I'm the person who takes the stage. I'm the person to do all the things. Well, imagine if my team, the team,
Mhm.
does all that they have to do, and they got the lights, they got the rooms, they got all the stuff, all the graphics, all the stuff is ready to go, and then Suzanne does not show up prepared.
Mm.
All their work would have been for naught. And so it's to remember that we've got to respect the
Right.
work of the who's, and how we respect it is we bring our best self, our giftings to the table. So you can't be, oh, all the who's are working, so I'm gonna go sit on the beach and I'll, I'll just halfway do my thing. Is if you want people to play full out for you and bring their best to the table, you've got to model bringing your best to the table,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
it's so important.
Yeah, I love, and you know, I'm just sitting here like listening to that piece, and I'm like, yeah, I remember having times like that. You sit down and you look like, what are they doing all this stuff, and you didn't show up to your life. It's crazy. But anyway,
Mhm.
we're not going to
Yeah.
go down that
And
rabbit
then
hole.
you feel not respected.